Welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight for the Board of Education Candidates Forum. The PTA Council is the host of this evening's event. My name is Nicole Verga, and I am the PTA Council Vice President. We also welcome and thank our moderator, Susan Ferris-Wrights, from the League of Women Voters. Ms. Wrights is a nonpartisan and out-of-town resource for this event. Tonight, we have 3 Scotch Plains candidates running for 2 open positions. Evan Murray, incumbent, Karen Mitchell, incumbent, and David Levine. There are 2 Fanwood candidates running for 1 open position. Amy Boroff, incumbent, and Maggie Savoka. All questions being asked tonight were submitted by our Scotch Plains and Fanwood community members. Tonight's event is being live streamed through the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Ed YouTube channel. It will be recorded and can be viewed on same YouTube channel, usually within 48 hours. Thank you. Ms. Wrights?
Hi, my name is Susan Ferris-Wrights. I'm the moderator this evening. I'm from the League of Women Voters of Berkeley Heights, New Providence, and Summit. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, nonpartisan political organization. Our members do a lot of hands-on work to safeguard democracy. We never endorse a candidate, but we are directly involved in shaping the important issues to keep our communities strong. As a League member, I moderate many candidates forums throughout the state of New Jersey at a lot of different levels. So, as previously stated, this event is being sponsored by the Scotch Plains Fanwood PTA Council. We want to thank the candidates for their cooperation and for giving us their time and attention today. The way the forum works is like this. Each candidate will offer a brief statement that will last about 2 minutes that will explain some of their qualifications. I will then ask a series of questions that have been submitted by the public, and each candidate will have an opportunity to respond to each question. If necessary, the candidates will be able to add a rebuttal to a response by another candidate. For all answers, we have a timekeeper who's going to keep track of time. Each answer is allotted 1 minute. Each rebuttal is allotted 30 seconds. At the end of the forum, we're going to have closing remarks by each candidate. And at that juncture, each candidate will then have 2 minutes to offer a closing statement. Just as a reminder, and I get to read this so I get it right, any use of the League name or footage from the forum in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including but not limited to internet, social media, cable, radio, or television, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. Any rebroadcast of this forum must be in its entirety, and no portion of this forum can be used in campaign advertising. So, that said, let's get on to the introductions. So, for our first introduction, I'm going to ask Amy Boroff if she would start with her 2-minute introduction. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here tonight to answer your questions and share my background with you. I come from a family of educators and spent many summers as a paraprofessional in special needs school as I was securing my degree in elementary education. After graduating, I went a completely different route and worked in nonprofit development and marketing. And one of my biggest accomplishments was the Latino Professional JA Community Day in Newark. Because of my commitment to education for Hispanic youth, I received and I was honored to receive a 2012 Cesar Chavez Proclamation from the White House. In 2013, I opened Be Craftful in downtown Fanwood, which earned me the honor of being recognized as the 2015 Union County Woman of the Year for Entrepreneurship. While my daughter attended McGinn Elementary, I was the representative for the district legislative team. I've served as a Fanwood Recreation Commissioner, taught art enrichment classes at the JCC, volunteered with Social Justice Matters, and served on the board for Women in Development. Being social, verbal, and part of the conversation has always been important to me, and by far my biggest challenge as a board member. As a sitting board member, there are strict policies in place regarding commenting on social media or responding personally to inquiries. It's important for you to know, though, that we do listen, We encourage letters to the board, feedback at board meetings, attendance at coffee with the superintendent. These communications and input via the strategic plan are valuable and needed for creating district goals. One of the many reasons I hope for your support in my re-election is because of the newly formed Community Relations and Wellness and Equity Committees, both of which I serve on and have actionable plans that I hope to be a part of. The Board of Ed is a committee-driven and a governing body that votes according to the majority. This means after doing my due diligence, I might have to concede to the majority. Like most boards, this requires trust and respect in my peers and confidence in their intellect and ethics, critical factors for being part of a governing body. My daughter started ninth grade this year, and I'm getting the reluctant. I just want to say I identify with everyone. My daughters started ninth grade, and all the decisions that are made by the board affect me and my family as well. And I thank you for your support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next candidate is Maggie Savoka.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie Savoka. I'm a nonprofit consultant and run my own company. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We moved to Scotch Plains in 1996 and then into Fanwood in 2006. We have 3 sons. My oldest went to local schools and then attended the Magnet High School at UCVTS. Our 20-year-old happens to be on the spectrum. He went to local schools and then we switched him to an out-of-district placement in 7th grade. He's a current sophomore at Ramapo College. And our 16-year-old is a junior at the high school, hoping to start his 3rd season of ice hockey, if possible. I'm running for the Board of Education because community leadership, transparency, and accountability are important to me, and I hope that they are to you. I believe if you want to be a part of a great community, you need to put your time and talent into it. And I think my record on that stands for itself. With great leadership, people feel valued, goals are met, and missions are fulfilled. I think it's important in any organization that stakeholders be informed with the facts, and part of great leadership is having to manage people of different backgrounds, perspectives, and opinions and still make them feel part of the community. Accountability for the mission of the district, the goals of the strategic plan, and the implementation of the policies falls to the administration and the board. I promise to be accountable to the students, parents, and taxpayers. Through my participation and facilitation of strategic planning processes, I know how to properly implement them to make goals get met. And if elected to the board, I will represent this community with integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next candidate is David Levine.
Hello, my name is David Levine, and I'm a pediatrician running for the Board of Education in Scotch Plains. I have lived in Scotch Plains for the last 6.5 years, and I have a 1st grader at Coles Elementary and a 3-year-old in preschool at the JCC. I am also currently on the board of Postpartum Support International, which is the largest nonprofit in the world, specifically working for the identification and treatment of postpartum depression and anxiety. And I have been involved in professional outreach through that organization, as well as strategic planning. I feel that these experiences make me an ideal candidate for the school board. During this pandemic, which isn't going anywhere anytime soon, our community would benefit from someone with my expertise in children and mental health on the board. There are many questions out there from parents and children regarding the safety of returning to school, as well as the short and long-term effects of COVID. Some of this we know, and some of it is too soon to tell. I will be a strong voice on the board for our children's overall wellness, both physical and mental, as their health is inextricably linked to their education and therefore their future opportunities. I will be transparent and honest in what I know and don't know, can and cannot do. We have many untapped resources in our community who can help us better understand the challenges we face, who I fear have not been allowed to express themselves or asked to share their knowledge. I will reach out to these people. We can view these times as an excuse to hunker down and retreat, or an opportunity to expand. Just because we have always done it a certain way doesn't mean that it's the only way or the right way. We need a different voice on the board, a forward-thinking one, to help move our children and families forward during this time of crisis and after as well. I promise to do everything in my power to be that voice for our children on the board. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, our next candidate is Karen Mitchell.
Good evening. First, I wanted to say thank you to the PTA Council and the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum and giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Karen Mitchell, column 3, and I am a wife, I'm a mother, and I'm a licensed social worker in the state of New Jersey. Why I'm running for the board is simple. I'm running for the kids. I have 4 sons in the district, and I understand how these years are important and critical for them to develop the foundation they need to succeed beyond their Scotch Plains years. Why am I qualified to do this job? First, as you might have read in my Patch article, I listen for a living. My job is to listen in my private practice for my patients to come in, tell me what's going on. I hear what they have to say, and I create a plan to help them move forward. This is the opportunity, being on the board, that I can use these skills to listen to you, the voters, the children, the teachers, and the administrators. Then I'm going to think and collaborate and communicate with my fellow board members before we act. I would like to bring this skill set, if privileged enough, to get your vote. I also want to say I want to run for the board simply because I care. I care about our kids. I care about the other parents who are trying to do the right thing during a pandemic in a technical world. I care about our kids, and I care about each other. And finally, I am qualified for your vote, if I'm privileged enough, because of my experience. I've been on the board this past year. I know it's a place I want to be. I also understand you can come in with all the enthusiasm in the world, but there are layers, and there's collaboration, and there's concession, and there's working together. If I'm honored enough to get your vote, I will bring that to you. Mitchell, column 3.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go and we're going to start with question 1. And
Susan, I didn't go yet.
You're right, you did. I put down a check and you didn't go. Go.
Sorry. So good evening, and thank you to everyone who joined us virtually to educate yourselves on the candidates that are running for the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education. I also want to thank Susan Ferris-Wrights of the League of Women Voters and Nicole Verga of the PTA Council for coordinating this evening's session. My name is Evan Murray. I'm a lifelong resident of Union County. I've been a resident of Scotch Plains for almost 10 years and a parent of 2 children currently in our school system, one in Terrell Middle School and a freshman at the high school. I'm the vice president of the Scotch Plains Library Board of Trustees. I've also served as president, vice president, treasurer of many organizations, so I'm keenly aware of the roles of executive boards. I've been a member of the board for the past 6 years. In that time, I've been the chair of the facilities committee, member of the finance committee, member of the policy committee, board liaison to the New Jersey School Board Association, and most recently named the chair of the student activities and athletic committee. I'm proud of the work I've done with the board over the past 6 years. Among my proudest achievements are the implementation of full-day kindergarten, resource officers in all of our buildings, and most recently field lighting at the high school athletic fields. However, I feel there's still a lot of value I can continue to add. Being a member of this board requires collaboration, mutual respect, and appreciation for the diverse knowledge and skills that each of the members brings. I've been honored and privileged to work with accountants, social workers, psychologists, professors, and healthcare workers, all of which who serve on the board currently. And I want to continue to ensure that all students of Scotch Plains Fan would continue to be adequately prepared to enter into a competitive and diverse world by receiving unique research-based educational experiences. And finally, I'd like to offer an apology because I know that on social media, there's been a lack of comments from those that are existing board members. The short answer is we're not allowed to comment on social media per district policies. Now, I know this is often a difficult situation because you as the community have elected us, but we cannot speak directly to those who have entrusted us to make the best possible decisions. And unfortunately, those are the guidelines that we need to follow, but we do try to make sure that we can communicate as best as possible. So good luck to everybody tonight, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, now we'll go to the first question. So the first question is going to start with Maggie Savoka. And, okay. Okay. Question 1. How will you make the communication channels between the towns, families, and education community more frequent, transparent, and effective for everyone, separate from mandatory Board of Ed meetings and posted meeting minutes? I'm happy to repeat the question now and for each of you if you need it. So go ahead, and that would be Maggie answering that question first.
Thanks, Susan. So I think something like communication is very important, and it should be certainly part of the strategic plan and then filter down to the Community Relations Committee. And there should be, different channels and channels that work with the 21st century. So we have done a lot of coffee with the superintendents and 30 seconds already. Okay. But I think that we need to update how we communicate with the community at large to let them know what's going on and also what they can do to participate in the process.
Okay, thank you. Okay. David Levine, how will you make the communication channels between the town's families and education community more frequent, transparent, and effective for everyone, separate from the Board of Ed meetings and posted meeting minutes? David Levine.
I think one of the ways that we can improve that, I think there's the pandemic version and there's the non-pandemic version. The pandemic version, of course, would require more, as was said, technology, possibly having more breakout sessions or something that could be done via Zoom, where individuals can have the opportunity to speak maybe directly with members of the board to present their questions, perhaps opening up the channels on social media within, in agreed upon ways to allow for us to better communicate with the public, guiding people towards the Facebook pages and towards the website of the district in order to places that they can post questions and answer them. And if we're not allowed to speak, perhaps we have to look at that and figure out why is it that we can't and decide if that needs to change.
Okay. Karen Mitchell, I can repeat the question or you can go ahead and answer it.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. How will you make the communication channels between the town's families and education community more frequent, transparent, and effective for everyone, separate from mandatory Board of Ed meetings and posted meeting?
Thank you.
Posted meeting minutes. Yeah.
Got you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's very important, obviously, communication, transparency, knowing the incredible things that are going on in our district. And things that are already going on. And I know Amy is on the communication committee and is doing a fantastic job with her colleagues, doing things such as tracking emails, sending surveys out to the community eventually, the Twitter account, amongst other things. Communication should be presented on the different levels of environment. So we have the micro level, which would be to the families, the meso level to the towns, and then macro more to maybe the Union County level. How do we do that? We do that by all channels, in person. We've had, after the pandemic, we've had town halls on Zoom already. We are restricted on social media. So it's, again, tracking those emails, getting back and knowing that we are one of you and we are transparent because we're just representative of each other and building that trust one email at a time.
Thank you. Okay. Evan Murray.
Thank you, Susan. So we do need to do more, I think, in this aspect. And I think it's with any large entity. The communication has always been something that is something that needs to be continually evaluated and worked on. We do have a community relations committee. We do know that it has been slow to start. We need to be able to provide greater transparency to the taxpayers of our community that have entrusted us with their voice. We did begin having frequent meetings with the mayors and town managers at the end of last year. And we want to make sure that there's transparency in decision-making, as well as ensure that they understood and bought into the prioritizations for a lot of the large-scale capital projects that we were looking to take on. So that transparency and communication with the entities and municipalities has already started, which I think has really been a great effort on both parties' part, as well as with the community. I believe the Community Relations Committee is working on a protocol to be able to provide more frequent updates to the community with regards to what's going on within the district.
Thank you. Okay, Amy Boroff.
Thank you. And as someone who was a on the restart of the Community Relations Committee. We certainly last year put together an evaluation of what our systems that were in place are. We've since brought on a community specialist to help us, especially during this pandemic, where it's become apparent that we do have some communication shortages in how we can be communicating better with the lack of social media. And so in the coming weeks, you'll be seeing, we'll be working on our communication plan to put an actual plan in place to have some more transparency, as well as including, in addition to the frequently asked questions on the website, some more interactive ways to connect with one person, as well as I think it's really important for us to start sharing more or in better ways with everyone how we operate. I think that is sort of the core problem to where there's a lack of communication, is not knowing why we can't speak on social media. And so that's something I've been passionate about and I look forward to working on.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Next question. This question we're going to start with David Levine. Teaching children about the different racial and cultural biases society has helps prepare them for the real world. What would you do as a Board of Ed member to encourage the district in providing educators the ongoing training opportunities to deliver more appropriate and authentic instruction for a diverse group of students?
I'm sorry, did you say beyond regular training?
Okay, teaching children about the different racial and cultural biases society has prepares them for the real world. What would you do as a Board of Ed member to encourage the district in providing educators the ongoing training opportunities to deliver more appropriate and authentic instruction for a diverse group of students?
Well, we actually just had training on this at the American Academy of Pediatrics convention. One of the authors of, I think it's How to Be an Anti-Racist, spoke to us. And it was very eye-opening. And I think first off would be trying to have Zoom sessions to help educate the teachers about implicit bias, having them understand that there's things that we don't often know. I mean, everybody that I'm standing in front of, we are all white middle-class Americans, and many of us do not know what it's like to not be that way, and we don't understand some of the biases that can work their way into our lives. So having teaching sessions for the teachers, having them read some of the valuable materials that are out there to understand where the biases come from, how to understand them, and how to not pass them on to their students would be one of the most important ways to start to improve that in our schools.
Great, thank you. Okay, Karen Mitchell?
Yes, thank you, Susan. This is such a relevant question because that's going on right now in the district. And like Dr. Levine had mentioned, Ibram Kendi says, in order to see everyone the same, we must look at them differently. And one of the things that the district is doing was there was a book club using that book. So similar to the meeting that you had, Dr. Levine, that's going on also in the district. There's also professional development under the incredible Dr. McGarry about white privilege, unconscious bias, and social injustice. So that question is so relevant and speaks to the strategic plan about making our students relevant in the bigger world. It's happening in real time, it's happening now, and our teachers are doing it. So as a board member, I would continue to support those efforts and increase the communication about them so the community knows all these incredible efforts that our teachers and administrators are doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Evan Murphy? Murray?
So,
Evan Murray? Yeah.
That's all right, Susan. It happens all the time. So I think this all starts with staffing. So from a staffing perspective, we as a district need to do better in our hiring practices, ensuring we have diversity. It's fair and equitable across all district employees, and it needs to be accountability needs to be measurable. The other thing is, I've always continued to say, diversity, inclusion, and equity, it needs to be a priority in our district. From a teaching perspective, teachers need to be culturally responsive in the classroom and provided with professional development in district, as well as workshops offered by professional organizations. We need to see a lot more of that. one of the most powerful classes I've taken in my corporate role was diversity and unconscious bias training. And to me, that has resonated with me in the tenure of the 20 plus years I've been in this job. And to be honest with you, it's something that we need to continue to push within a district to ensure that everybody has the understanding of unconscious bias.
Thank you. Okay, Amy Boroff.
So I have to agree with both Karen and Evan in saying that the initiatives that we've started in the district or that have been ongoing in the district are tremendous. And I think a really important starting point with all of this is when we start to listen to our students in our district. We've had the opportunity as wholeheartedly as I have, but really the staff and administration themselves to sit down and hear from the students directly. And around that sort of start facing and looking at programs that we can offer and professional development that coincides with this. So in an effort to increase the awareness for the teachers themselves, putting them into professional development opportunities that reflect exactly the same opportunities they're teaching to their children as well and their students. I think we've seen a tremendous amount of attention and much needed attention put on this. And Dr. McGarry is a great example of someone who came to the district this year to truly bring a lot of wealth and information to this area.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and Maggie Savoka.
Yes, thank you again, Susan. So the first thing I would do is engage our parent base. I know that this is an issue that's very important to them, that students feel represented in the curriculum. And I think that our parents are capable of helping the board and the district come up with some great ideas to do that. I think we have to have a plan to react to situations like the George Floyd murder, or even locally the Columbus Day controversy, when they happen, to allow students to process those things and learn from them as a community. And I'd also have, have the district looked into the Amistad curriculum and see what we could implement further with that.
Thank you. Okay.
Susan, can I add something about the diversity of recruiting for our district? Do we have time for that?
So yes, so we have a 30-second rebuttal to each of these questions.
Okay, it's not so much a rebuttal as a addition. Okay, it's a rebuttal.
Okay, you can do it as a rebuttal.
So for the recruiting practices to increase the diversity of our staff, I had the privilege of speaking with Peter Pachuco, the HR director, he and his crew are doing a fantastic job. The college recruiting has been expanded to Kean University, where there's 53% minority undergrad, William Patterson, 54% minority undergrad, Montclair State, 51%, Rutgers, 44% minority undergrad. Cheyenne University, which is a historically Black community, NewJerseySchoolBoards.com, and Star Ledger and Minority Update magazine. So those efforts, I see my red, are absolutely being done in real time as well. Thank you.
Okay, that's your red. Okay, next question. And this question starts with Karen Mitchell. Okay. Do you have any personal conflicts of interest, including relatives that work for or provide services to the school district, or any financial interests that would cause you to need to recuse yourself from involvement with Board of Ed actions? Karen,
no, I do not.
Okay. Evan Murray.
The only conflict of interest I have is that my wife is a teacher in a different district. So when it comes to negotiating the teacher's contract, I need to recuse myself from those discussions, and I'm not allowed to be in executive session when they're discussed until the contract is closed.
Okay. Amy Boroff.
No, I do not.
Okay. Maggie Savoka.
No, I do not.
Okay. And David Levine.
No, I do not.
Next question starts with Evan Murray. Okay. Next question is this. Most candidates have expressed a commitment to anti-racism, equity, and/or representation. How do you plan to incorporate those efforts into the forthcoming strategic plan? And how do you plan to make them measurable and specific so that progress and accountability can be clearly measured? Okay, that starts with Murray. I can reread it if you want.
If you could, that would be helpful, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Most candidates have expressed a commitment to anti-racism, equity, and/or representation. How do you plan to incorporate those efforts into the forthcoming strategic plan? And how do you plan to make them measurable and specific so that progress and accountability can be clearly measured?
Thanks, Susan. So for a strategic planning process, I think this is where, in order to understand how to make them measurable and attainable, we have to understand what those actual metrics are going to be. And those metrics are going to be defined by the community. So the community involvement in the strategic planning is paramount to the success of the district going forward. We have strategic planning sessions every 3 years, and the participation is good, but I don't think it's fantastic. And in order for us to be able to do that, in order for us to ensure that there's equity across all students in the district, affording them the ability to see themselves learn through others through the curriculum, and holding people accountable, there needs to be participation. And once those areas are defined, then I think you can set up the parameters around how they're measurable and how they're reportable. Without knowing that information, I don't believe that there's anything that I can offer at this point to make them measurable until I understand what those criteria are. I've been very vocal around the need to have equity across all students in the district, and I'm getting red carded, so I have to stop.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
So because this is going to go so fast, I'm going to default to what Evan said and then continue from there. I think a really important factor that comes out of the strategic plan is the accountability that is held in each annual review of the superintendent, at which point we evaluate every set forth goal that goes into the strategic plan and break it down annually. So we can measure how many programs were introduced, again, to Evan's point, whatever comes out of the strategic plan. But we absolutely sit down. We have an outside resource that comes in to do the evaluation with us, and we hold the superintendent accountable for all the things that are in the strategic plan. And of course, equity is a huge, enormous portion of that we've been working on very closely with outside organizations, partner organizations. And the true test to see it is to see if there's a goal of integrating more books into our library, a more diverse selection. There's a measurement tactic for that. To Evan's point, it depends on what the
Thank you.
forth are.
Okay, Maggie Savoka.
Yep, just trying to find that unmute button. So I had the pleasure of speaking with a group of parents that, racial equality, anti-racism literacy is important to. And they've done a lot of great groundwork that probably supports what the board is already working on. And so I can see, a larger community committee being formed to kind of talk about these things, maybe within the strategic planning process, since that's up for renewal right now. But, the goals definitely need to be measurable and time sensitive. So if you're going to get 100 books that depict people of color and different backgrounds, when are they going to be purchased by? And I'm not familiar with the evaluation that Amy's talking about, but that's what would go into the evaluation. And I think the board should evaluate themselves on reaching those goals as well.
Thank you.
Susan, can I make one comment as a rebuttal? I just want to, not yet? Okay.
Soon,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. Okay, David Levine.
So the first and foremost, I would be looking into existing programs throughout the country or in academia where this has been worked on, because in order to make any change, you need to already have verifiable metrics that you need to be able to look at. These are not things that I think the board by itself can create, but people might have already had such. And I've spoken with groups just as Maggie Savoka has, and I would be looking to those groups to find out if they have programs that are already in place or they know of programs. Then being able to see, have those programs been instituted in other school districts and have they worked? And if they have worked, trying to use them in our district. If they have not worked, then we would try to take what parts of it may work for us, try to add different things or subtract others, and try to have those metrics available to us to then see if they can work. Unfortunately, none of that is going to happen quickly, and this is going to be a several years process, which would of course go into, as Evan mentioned, a strategic plan going forwards.
Thank you. Karen Mitchell.
Thank you, Susan. First, I want to say, as a member of the Wellness and Equity Committee, representation is first and foremost on everyone's minds in the Board of Ed. And that's shown by what's already being done. We have student assistant counselors focusing on diversity and inclusion. As a Board of Ed member, we're going to make sure that they continue their job and have the support they need. The curriculum has been expanded to include more Pura Belpre and Coretta Scott King titles. We're going to make sure that continues. The titles in the English curriculum have been expanded. So all children in the classrooms see themselves in the books they're reading. They see leaders and the future in the curriculum, not just from a white perspective. I would continue the professional development. What are we doing? What went right? What needs to be better? What needs to go forward?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any rebuttal on this? Yeah. Okay. So let's start with, okay. Evan Murray, why don't you start first, please?
It was only just a clarification. I just wanted it was more of a, in line with what Maggie was saying. The support group that she and Dr. Levine and I and Amy and Karen have spoken with, they've actually been invited, I believe, to partner with our wellness committee as well. So we've already began to integrate that team into the district's committee that's already working on a lot of these issues. So that's been a real positive start as well. So I just wanted to make that additional clarification.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Amy Boroff.
So to Evan's point, under the Wellness and Equity Committee, we have formed the Racial Equity Task Force. As such, Real Parents is joining us for our first meeting this week, but we've been working cohesively. They've been a wealth of information and sharing their feedback. Additionally, just to Maggie's point about the board evaluations, we do self-evaluations, a board evaluation, as well as superintendent evaluations that are run through New Jersey State Boards Association. And we have evaluators that come in, and it's all red lighted, but we do have self-evaluations.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's a hand up for Karen.
Yes. I also wanted to add and talk about Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. They have recently gone through a listening tour, and similar and piggybacking on what my colleagues are saying and fellow nominees are saying is that we're listening to the community. We're going around, and anyone listening to this YouTube channel or however you're listening to it, join us, come out, tell us what you're saying. Keep reaching out to us because we want to hear, similar to what the Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation, Real Parents, and Social Justice Matters are saying. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next question.
Do I have a second or no?
Oh, yeah. I didn't see your hand. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think all of this is good, but listening and just taking in everybody's opinion is nice, but you still need structure around this. You still need to have real scientific metrics to evaluate whether it's not going to be just reading books by other authors or, talking a little bit about it for a month, a year. This needs to be handled in a rigorous way in order for there to be real change.
Thank you. Okay.
Susan, can I have 30 seconds also?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I just want to say that it's great to hear everything that the current board is doing. Just from my perspective, it's, seems a little delayed. We had a situation at the beginning of this school year. We also had graffiti that was, racist, homophobic, xenophobic on the high school. And what I hear from the community is that not enough is being done. And now that real parents is involved, we seem to be getting some action. So
Thank you. Okay. All right, next question. So yeah, so you actually touched on this a little bit before, just as an FYI. So this is going to start with Amy Boroff. Okay, so wait till you hear this question. It's a long one, okay? Social media can be a great tool for communicating local information. However, the misuse and spread of false information can be damaging. What is the role of the Board of Ed to ensure privacy as it relates to discipline and academic issues, while also holding adults accountable for posting about private matters for public consumption and commentary? Do you want me to read that over? Because that's like a super long. No? Okay. Okay. Amy, you go first on that.
I'm going to give this a go.
Okay.
I think that there's a big lesson that every adult needs to consider. And, we teach our children about online digital being good citizenship. And I think that as adults, we don't do the best job at that. And probably that most likely has a lot to do with the guidance that comes from the state in ensuring that Board of Ed members are not commenting. I do want to touch on the fact that you said that from starting and spreading information that is false, we know this firsthand, and we've seen it firsthand, and we are working with communication specialists to figure out a way that we could at least acknowledge if a conversation has started, that to direct people to where the correct information is. Having said that, we can't comment on anything that's private, on any individual person or place, or any individual situation, which puts us in a hard spot. And I think really as adults, it comes down to maybe everyone putting on a different hat every once in a while, and
Thank you.
trying to lead by example.
Okay. Maggie Savoka.
there we go. So obviously anything that involves a student or a staff member, anything that I think anybody that's worked, for an employer that understands privacy issues shouldn't be on social media, especially from a board member. I have shared that that I have read the social media policy and also the communications policy. And I do have some questions because I think that social media is a place where parents go for a lot of information. And so, staying within the lines of the policy, can the board use social media effectively? I know Dr. Heisey at the high school has a Twitter account. So I guess that's a possibility. But obviously confidential things have to stay confidential, but I think we need to reach out to our community in ways that they want to be reached out to.
Okay, David Levine. I can reread the question if you need it.
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
Maggie's correct. I think we need to meet parents where they are, and a lot of them are on social media. I don't think the board has any responsibility to dictate the social media use of adults in the community. I think we have a responsibility to be responsible citizens and to compose ourselves as adults when we are on social media. And of course that gets lost in the majority of cases. There should be obviously privacy. I'm a physician. Privacy should be paramount over everything. No one should be talking about anything about anybody, especially if they're board members. But I think that we have to understand that if we do not control the message better, the message gets out of hand, and then you get misinformation. And we've seen all across the country what that means. So there has to be some control over it. And we have a responsibility as board, if I am, but as a board, the board has a responsibility to have the trust of the community, so that way the information that comes from us and not from someone else.
Thank you. Okay, Karen Mitchell.
Thank you, Susan. I agree we have to meet parents where they are, but as we've seen, unfortunately, over the past few months, I think sometimes that First Amendment right is taken out of context. And we are an example for not only each other, but our children, and we need to take that role very seriously. As far as privacy, I'm a social worker, and privacy is first and foremost, and protecting the kids is our responsibility. So social media has no place for personal situations, personal cases. There's executive session for the Board of Ed to talk about more personal matters that need to respect the privacy of the families. But I think the responsibility on social media is something that all of us can take a hard look at. What are we trying to communicate? And if we have frustrations, what other outlet can we use to let that out so that there is a level of decorum and respect for everyone?
Thank you. Evan Murray?
Evan, muted.
Sorry. So individual board members obviously can't make decisions for the board. We can't take action or speak on behalf of the board. Concerns of individuals and community that are brought to our attention can't be acted upon. What has gone, people have a lot more time on their hands now. Everybody's home. We talk about bullying in school. There's a lot of cyberbullying that goes on with adults. From what I've seen, there is no guidelines around some of these social media posts and the way people are feeling. They just throw it out there. They don't care who they hurt or how they hurt, and they're really acting as poor role models. We have to be those, the good corporate citizens here and make sure that we're not putting things out in the public that, are not for the public in that forum. So social media can be very dangerous, and it can actually hurt more than it can help. So we just need to make sure that we're being, using it in the proper way, as others had said.
Thank you. Okay. Any rebuts on that? Or are we good? We're good. Okay. Oh, okay.
No.
Maggie?
Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. I just want to say, I'm one of those people that believes that our community members can understand that one individual board member does not speak for the whole board, right? Like the decisions the board makes come down to board votes. And I also want to say, as far as what we've seen on social media lately, I think is in direct, it's because the community doesn't feel heard by the board. So.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
More rebuttals, Susan.
Okay, got some more. Got it. Okay, David?
Yeah, I wanted to agree with what Maggie said, but I think that we cannot ignore when the house is on fire. And when we see things like this on social media, there have to be ways to respond. I understand that it can't be immediate. That would be wrong. But we need to have systems in place where when we're seeing emails or we're seeing posts that are complete misrepresentations of what the board is actually doing, it can't wait till the next board meeting in order to address those.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Good. Yeah. Evan?
No, I would, did you say Evan? Go ahead, Evan.
Please, Evan.
So I just, the danger of social media, and as of recent, unfortunately, character attacks are unfortunate, and that's been happening a lot. And and as a board member, we're not permitted to speak as any of us, on the public, and that to me is a dangerous game. People don't like answers that they get, so they go on the attack, and that's not fair, and it's not representative of how the decisions are being made. And going on social media and putting that out there is not the appropriate channel to do that, because it's a lot of misinformation.
Thank you. Amy, you wanted to, Amy? Yeah.
Yeah, and further to that point, a lot of times what is being communicated, whether it is correct or not correct information, we can't clarify that because we're not allowed on social media, A, and B, in some cases, some of the information is private. I think that it's really hurtful when we go and react to something and post names and characterize our superintendent, call people out by name, knowing that those people can't respond. I think we all have to be really responsible for our actions online and at all times, whether we're board members or not.
Thank you. And Karen Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I wanted to just add that and remind the community that last fall, when there was an incident in one of the schools, the board worked with the community and the police department, and the police did a panel on how to conduct yourself on social media. So the use of that very important tool, like Maggie was saying, is critical. And yes, we need to communicate, but there is a way. And the more we talk about how to use it productively with community members like the police force will help us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are coming down to the end, and so this is going to be our last question. Okay, the district will be, and this question starts with Maggie Savoka. The district will be going through a strategic planning process shortly. What do you feel should be the most important part of the new plan and why? Let's start out with Maggie Savoka.
I would say responding to the racial injustice and trying to have our curriculum be more reflective of not only our community, but the world at large. I think, one way or the other, we'll get through the pandemic. But I think that the issues around making people feel included are important. And of course, the budget, which will drive what we'll be able to do on the on all the issues, actually.
Okay, thank you. Okay, David Levy.
I would say that the most important thing for me would be the mental health of our students, specifically our high school students. I believe that the school start time in high school is too early. There are reams of data showing that later start times after 8:30 for high schoolers leads to lower incidences of depression and anxiety, increased wellness, increased test scores. I understand that this is not always a simple matter of just changing something, but there are many school districts across the state and across the country. And I know that they are piloting this in New Jersey, but I think that Scotch Plains Fanwood should be on the forefront of this because it is one of the cheapest and easiest ways to improve the outcomes for our students who are about to enter into college and therefore entering into the real world. Sleep can never be underestimated. And I think we need to start realizing that our kids are overworked, overstressed, and they're not getting enough sleep. And we can do something about that.
Thank you. Karen Mitchell.
Sure. Thank you, Susan. The most important thing for the next strategic plan is respect. We're going to respect the students, their social emotional learning, who they are and who they represent, whatever nationality or race that is. Respect for the teachers who are giving every ounce of themselves to educate our children, to help them move on and move forward positively in their life. Respect for the parents who give everything to support these kids who are challenged with the virtual learning, with childcare, who want more answers. Respect them. And finally, we're going to respect the taxpayers. We're working with taxpayer money. We're entrusted for their vote, and they need respect too. And I also want to say respect the administration for their leadership and all the effort and thought they put into structuring the school environment to make it the best for our kids. So the most important thing for the next strategic plan, Susan, is respect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evan Murray.
Sure. So I think there's three key items in no specific order. So my first would be community relations and communication. I think we need to make sure that we have the right level of transparency and communication within the strategic plan to make sure that those goals and all these things should have measurable components to them so that the community will have a way to measure how well we have done for the district. The second would be diversity, inclusion, and equity in all of our school district, across our district, across all of our students and staff population. And I think we spent some time on that this evening. And the third would be health and safety for everybody within the district, all staff, all students, both social and emotional well-being is included in that health and safety. So those would be the three items that I would recommend for the upcoming strategic planning priorities, as well as making sure that, like I said, each one of them has a measurable component to them that is reported out on a regular basis within our board meetings and whatever other frequency is necessary to ensure that people are comfortable.
Thank you. Okay, and Amy Boroff.
So thank you again, Susan. I would definitely say that equity, wellness, and as well as communications. I think that one of the greatest things about the strategic plan is the community coming together to do this together. So there are always prizes. This will be my third one. But when we talk about communication and about transparency, what we've learned over the past few months is that the community is feeling that there's not a connection there. And so that leads to so many other concerns that are easily solved. So I think once we establish better systems and transparency with the community, our taxpayers, our children, our students, and our teachers and staff, it all comes down to that communication level, because what we're not communicating, we probably could be. And the great, amazing programs that we're doing with equity, our relationship with all of these amazing partners that we have right now, without the community being aware of that, it's hard to go forward. So I think communication for me.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have come to the end of our candidates forum, and what we're going to do now is each candidate's going to have a 2-minute opportunity to offer a closing. We started with Amy Boroff, and we're going to start in the reverse. So the first person that's going to go this time is Evan Murray.
Thanks, Susan. I would like to first.
Forget.
You did a very good job. Thank you. I would like to first thank Susan Ferris-Wrights of the League of Women Voters and Nicole Verga of the PTA Council for coordinating a fantastic forum for the community to come together to meet the potential future leadership of the school board. I'm very passionate about continuing my work on the school board. I've always given 110% to everything I'm involved in. I've been a man of my word, would be working for what is best interest of the community, but more importantly, the students and staff of our district. I believe my diverse skill set, ability to focus on all facets of school board members' responsibilities, and ability to collaborate effectively within a board structure will continue to ensure that there is continuity in decision-making. I hope my passion for this position is clear. In my working life, I'm presently employed by one of the largest global fixed income managers, but my heart is with our students and educators and in helping serve the best interests of our towns. I've been honored to serve our students and their families for the past 6 years, and should I be given the opportunity to continue, I promise to carry us forward with integrity and dedication. I look forward to continuing to be an active member of the school board. Thank you for attending and making an informed decision about the future of our school district.
Great, thank you. Okay, Karen Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, Susan. And echoing what Evan said, I'd like to thank the PTA Council and the League of Women Voters again for this opportunity to speak to you both, the time of my colleagues. Good luck to everyone and to the community. To sum up, what I would do for the community if I was privileged enough to get your vote is we're going to work together. We're going to talk together. I talk for a living. I want to talk to you. And this is about the kids. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about anybody but them. And together, I would like to bring my experience and my clinical training in child development and share it with the community. I can promise you that you have my time and my dedication. I know what this job takes. I have experience for the past year, the complicated layers it takes to get things done, and the privilege it is to work with the other board members with their expertise and their knowledge. It's a privilege. I don't take it lightly, and I don't take your kids' experience in school lightly. Think of Karen Mitchell, column 3 for your vote, and thank you so much for your time. If anybody has any questions, my email is on the Board of Ed website. I'd be happy to answer if you have any more questions about me or what I stand for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, David Levine.
I would also like to echo and thank the League of Women Voters and the PTA Council for organizing the debate tonight. Open discussion, disagreement about our children's learning and schools is never a bad thing and can often lead to new approaches to education that can benefit everyone. It is clear that our challenges do not begin and end with COVID. There is more work to be done in our community to improve the welfare of all of our students and instruct them on how to become good citizens and future leaders of our community, our state, and our country. Opening them up to new ways of thinking creatively and critically is our responsibility. Challenging them to do better is our goal. All our students should have an equal opportunity to achieve these goals, and part of the board's responsibility is to assist them as best as possible. Having new voices, both creative and critical, on the board is necessary toward trying to meet these goals. That is why I am running for this position. We need to understand our mistakes in order to not repeat them, and also learn how these mistakes are understood by our diverse community. I chose to live in Scotch Plains for this diversity and want to give back to it. I practice medicine. I don't perfect it. I make mistakes. I know what I don't know. But I always strive to not only better myself, but to make those around me better as well. That is what I plan to bring to the board, an eagerness to learn and a striving to do better, to not rest on what has been done, but to look at what can be done. I may be one voice among several, but I am a strong voice, backed up not by bravado or a need to be right, but by evidence and openness to debate and learn. That is my promise, to not only be better, but to do better. For our families, our teachers, and most importantly, our students of Scotch Plains, I ask for your support and for your vote. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. And Maggie Savoka?
Thank you. I just want to say to the community that I think it's nice to have a choice. I've known Amy for several years and know her to be an active and caring community member. The reason that I'm running is because I believe I can make a change to the status quo, and I would like to be part of a board that looks forward to engaging the community and works with the administration, holding ourselves accountable to the students, parents, and taxpayers. And while I agree with some of the things that have been said tonight, that issues and disagreements should be handled in the least disruptive way, I believe when unjust actions are taken by anyone in the administration or on the board, that it's our duty to let the community know. I will also say, it came out in some of the answers that the recent restart and creation of the Equity, Wellness, and the Community Relations Committee is a little too late for me. The board should always be actively engaging the community. Without our taxpayers, without our parents, we don't have a school district. We are neighbors, we can speak to each other, we can figure things out. We all want the same thing, a great school district that serves our students. And so I just ask that if you want to challenge the status quo, that you consider voting for me. And I'd like to thank everyone for making tonight possible.
Thank you. Amy Boroff?
Thank you. So in addition to Susan and Nicole, I want to thank Suzanne for great timekeeping. Last 3 years serving on the Board of Education has been everything I expected and a total surprise. I had no idea going in how many hours were required, how it would impact my personal life, the weight of every decision that every person in our district makes in the effort to ensure the health and best education for every student, how it would lift me up when we face catastrophes locally and around the country, and the impact the students themselves would have on me. Despite attending Board of Ed meetings for years, I had so much to learn. I relied a lot on my colleagues on the board to explain processes and procedures and how things operated and why. In truth, it's really rewarding when I look at the evolution of challenges and how solutions are created. In my first year, I served on the curriculum committee, and the education nerd that I am, I was truly fascinated. Our district has an intensive arts integration program, arts across the curriculum that is inspiring. I've watched leadership from both townships come together with the Board of Ed and community partners to work together and combat racism, ensure security and wellness in our schools, and we continue to keep an open dialogue, knowing that as partners, we can do more together. Over the past 3 years, our township, state, country, and world for that matter have faced challenges that require teamwork and partnership. And I assure you that while I cannot reply to you on social media, I have never once told someone who has contacted me that I could not listen to them. I have always taken the time to listen and be as helpful as I can. We are lucky to have an incredible administration, staff, and teachers who work tirelessly, but cohesively to ensure we are providing SPF students with equitable and meaningful educations. If there's one thing I can leave you with tonight, is that being an effective leader means putting aside your differences, valuing the opinions of experts and peers, even when you are so certain that yours makes more sense. That there's no I in team, there is no way to be an effective leader without appreciation and respect for and of others. That it is not the strength of the individual, but the strength of the unit and how they function together. Because at the end of the day, together, everyone achieves more. I appreciate your consideration and hope to continue serving on the Board of Education.
Terrific. Okay, thank you. Okay, that pretty much wraps up what we were going to do. I do want to just mention before we exit here that it's a very popular belief on the part of many people that I talk to every day that voting isn't important and that your vote doesn't matter. And many people believe that special interest groups and big business have all the power That is to say that the individual has no power. That's not true. And your vote is your opportunity to participate in your government. I urge you to vote however way you choose to vote, but it needs to be done by November 3rd. The League does provide a website, vote411.org, where we've compiled a lot of tools that you can utilize to get information that you might need for voting. It has nothing to do with parties. It has to do with how you can access information about ballots and what candidates are available in your district and things like that, little bios on people, which is only bios of information that the candidates themselves have written and submitted. And so that's there. But I really would like to urge everyone to vote. You've been really a great group to work with, and I thank you very much. And I'd say that's it. We're done. Good night.
And thank you, Suzanne, for keeping time.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. Good job. Thank you.
And everyone, thank you.
Thank you for participating. Thanks for everyone for watching, and good night.